All right, everybody. It is now the bottom of the August turn 1914. Central Powers just did their turn, and they did some, basically, it looks like it's a blitzkrieg again. They attacked Antwerp and just had a defender eliminated. Attacked Brussels, had a defender eliminated. They attacked here and took out a French unit with a defender eliminated. Attacked here with that single unit that was left and had a defender eliminated. And then this demoralized unit that was sitting here, they attacked and got another demoralized again. So they pushed the unit back even more. These three units here attacked this unit that was sitting here, and you got a defender demoralized, and they fell back. So it's looking like the French are not holding very well, and the Germans are doing quite well on this side of the front. So I'm not sure what the heck's happening with the French units, but they're not doing so well. They're not holding up to the fire. Now over here in Serbia, oh, I forgot to do something. I need to advance that to there. All right. The railhead moved up too because they marched down the railhead there. And the Serbs obviously had retreated back here, and the Austrians slogging along. They can't get any farther. Basically, they can only move one hex at a time because if the zone of control here stopped them from going into these hexes here, so in the mountains. So maybe next turn, if the Serbians don't fall back, it's going to be a battle maybe in September. Over here, nothing happened. The Austrians decided not to do anything. And then over here, the Austrians that were sitting here in Krakow punched out, moved forward, cutting the rail lines through here, and the rail lines moved up as they moved to one army group here, and the group up here, that's the Germans come chomping out of here. And let's see, we had the over there, let's just get a little closer. They had a two-prong attack. They attacked the two different units in there. And I guess I forgot to do that. They had a no decision. So the Germans lost a unit and the Russians lost a unit there. So they didn't lose any ground, but both casualties on both sides. So it's pretty much what happened there. They're trying to put a little stop on the Russians. The Russians are doing pretty good, except they might be in trouble here. Because at the moment, this rail line has been cut here by the German unit that here and came down, cut that rail line. This rail line is cut. So right now, the only supply line that's getting through to these guys right here is right through here. And pretty soon, that's Lutz. Yeah. And Warsaw might be cut off. So if these guys go through here and go down, the line of supply is not looking so good for the Russians right through here. It's looking a little bit unattainable for them, just from that fact, because the German high command, talking with the Austrians, said, you know what, all we have to do is send our fast cav through and cut them off, cut their supply, and then maybe we'll starve them out without even having to worry about fighting them. So that's a possibility come in a month or two, unless they can get something squared away with the Russian forces. All right, so that's pretty much everything that happened in this turn for the Central Powers. All right, hope you guys like it. We'll be back with the Allies. All right, everybody. It's the bottom of the second turn of August, Allied turn, and things got really interesting here on the Eastern Front. The Russians did a massive attack here and took out this city. They captured it, but it was more of an attacker exchange, so they lost a bunch of troops in the process of taking the city. So it wasn't overly great. They got the city, but it hurt them a bit. So that's not a great thing for them. But they do have possession of something that the Austrians would prefer to have kept. I think historically Austrians lost that city anyway. Now over here, the Russians moved up and attacked this fort complex and got another exchange here. So they had to lose forces equal to the part of the defense. Defender, well, the attack was split up into three. They had 3 attacks on each of the different units in there, and they had one attacker exchange, one both demoralized, so both lost one, so no decision. So the Germans kept the fort, but both sides lost a bunch of troops. So, and then over here, as you can see, things have changed a little bit. The Russians moved in, and their cav took out the cav unit right there. And then there was a cav unit right here. That was the Austrian cav, and that was the German cav. They got taken out here, and they got taken out here. So that sort of opens up the supply lines again, so the Russians are feeling a little more comfortable about what's going on right there. And they shipped in some troops. So they are consolidating on the front line right there. So it's looking good for the Russians on the Eastern Front. So we'll just see what happens here. Right now the Germans are getting really nervous. The Austrians are getting kind of nervous because they're losing territories, and the Austrians have lost this big major city on the Eastern Front. And that's not making them too happy right now. Okay. Now over here on the Western Front, things got a little hairy. Alright, as you can see here, the British moved up here outside of Brussels, because the British are kind of stuck. They can only go basically from about that far to the north. This is their territory, the only place they can actively be on the front, because they have an agreement with the French not to allow them anywhere. They don't trust the Brits, I guess. They moved a unit out of London to here, so they'll have some more strength next turn. The French took all of their reinforcements they got, shoved them into the line here and here, and did a massive attack right here. And they split their attacks up to try to get as much, attack in here and try to take these guys out. And they got a one no decision, so both sides lost a unit. Then there was a 2 attacker attrition, so the French lost a bunch of units trying to take this hex back and push the lines back. So basically that didn't come out on the side the French wanted, and their units over here that were demoralized are still demoralized, but they're regrouping a little bit. So that is pretty much it. The Belgians don't have any forces in the field, but they still have one city left. So the Belgians are, if they lose this hex right here, they're out of the game. They're done. But I couldn't get anybody into that hex to protect them from going out of business, basically, because using up the full movement just to get next to the Germans unit right here that are sitting there. So I couldn't get in there because the zone of control cost too much to get in there. So basically that's just saying Belgium's out of the war. There's no way ands, ifs, or buts about it. That's all I can say. But the dead You know, you got a bunch of dead Austrians and Germans and Belgian and Serbs and French and Russians are all dead. And thing is, nobody has any replacement points yet. That doesn't start till October, so it's going to be a while before anybody can get any more troops on the front line. You just have to rely on reinforcements showing up from outside territories. So that's going to be it. And obviously, they couldn't do anything down here. The French would love to be able to send some troops down here to help out the Serbs, but they're busy on the Western Front because the juggernaut of Germans are piling over the border, and they don't like it. They can't help out anywhere. So it's going to be up to the Russians to save the day, the way it's looking. And the Germans, obviously, they're going to have to try to blitz in to get to Paris as quick as possible, and then have to turn around and start looking back at the Russians, and hopefully the Russians don't do too much on the Eastern Front. All right, we'll be back.